Welcome into another episode of Hot Takes and High Stakes. We are your hosts, Taylor and Austin. Today we are just about wrapping up our division talks, continuing our AFC North rounds, everything like that. Overall, how do you feel about this division? I genuinely loved the research.
Yeah, super fun as always diving into this one. Who feel like this division drafted about as well as you could have, in my opinion. I really like that you're just seeing offensive linemen after offensive linemen going early. I really was impressed with how all of these teams drafted. I also think this division is wide open for any of the three teams.
Jumping into the Browns, might as well get the worst team out the way first. They did some good things. They did completely rehaul their offensive line as well as their defensive line, bringing in Elton Jenkins, Zion Johnson, and Titus Howard in free agency, all three great players, and then getting rid of some other aging players. They kind of revamped everything, and then getting rid of Myles Garrett was the biggest news of the offseason.
Todd Monken bringing in new coordinators should be really exciting. Brand new defensive coordinator. We don't know. This defense is going to look completely different without Myles Garrett, obviously. Great addition with Jared Verse, and then we'll get into some of those draft picks as well, but yeah, I think it's a little bit of a new start for the Browns, but they've always had a new start with a new quarterback every couple of years and new coach every couple of years.
Always a rebuild in Cleveland. Always a
Absolutely.
rebuild.
I don't think the prior head coach was the issue. I think Todd Monken can do a good job, but yeah, that's their guy now, so let's see what he can do.
I think that was honestly the weirdest hire that they could have got for their head coach, which I know that the picking was slim. A lot of coaches were pulling out of the race there towards the end. Kind of makes you wonder what goes on with the front office and how they're trying to handle the situation. Maybe they're the downfall of the franchise. Whatever it is, I just thought Monken was a wild hire. I thought there's a lot of better options out there. I thought Dable was going to be a Cleveland coach.
Yeah, that would have made sense. Even Mike McDaniels with where they were at. I mean, I know McDaniels kind of proven that he's probably not meant to be a head coach, at least not at this time. But from whatever they were looking to reinvent, I think he could have fit in there as well. If they're really looking to get this offense going, which I think that's what they're looking at. I think they're still going to have a strong defense even without Myles Garrett.
They have a lot of good players. Mason Graham in year 2, and maybe we'll get a jump from him. They have a lot of young talent. I mean, they've been stocked on the draft picks. That's for sure. Do you want to go ahead and jump into their draft and their many, many draft picks? First off, Spencer Fano trading with Kansas City to take him number 9 overall, I think was the best decision they could have done.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite offensive linemen coming out of this draft. He's an absolute behemoth, and anyone that's ever watched Utah football knows that taking a tackle out of Utah, he's got to know how to run block. So that's a huge plus. This is somebody that likes to get nasty and just absolutely go blow these holes wide open, but he's a phenomenal pass protector as well. So I'm not surprised to see him go that early in the draft. I thought he might have even went a little earlier, but yeah, I think that was a great pick for them.
Well, I love that you mentioned his pass blocking, his pressure rate, the 1.1% pressure rate this past season in Utah. Wasn't a great season for Utah, but he was one of their high points that they had, being able to constantly open up holes between him and Caleb Lomu. I personally thought he was the best tackle in this draft.
Yeah, absolutely. And this offensive front for the Browns has just been injury-ridden. They've drafted, haven't gotten the talent they wanted, just everything you can imagine. I absolutely love that for a first-round pick.
Yeah. Speaking of another first-round pick, going on to later in the round, they get Casey Concepcion. I truly think this is going to be the Browns' number 1 receiver, possibly by the end of the season, if not for sure going into next year. I think this guy's ceiling is higher than anyone else's. Jerry Jeudy is not really number 1 anymore, and I think him and Harold Fannin are going to be rolling with catches this year.
Yeah, so much fun to watch him at Texas A&M. I was really impressed with him. I would have liked to see him fall to another AFC team, but we'll let it ride for now. So my one question with this first and second round selection, the late first and the middle of the second round pick, is if they had a possibility to maybe make a trade to go after Downs. That would have been the only thing that maybe I can critique as far as their draft goes. Denzel Boston was another great addition. He's a behemoth over wide receiver. Complete opposite of KC Concepcion. He's that small body, quick guy, and Denzel Boston is just giant. So I think if they can play one of these guys on the outside and move Judy to the slot, or maybe Judy will play outside with this guy and put Concepcion in the slot, I think all things are on the table as far as that goes. But yeah, really impressed with the talent that they scouted out for this draft.
Yeah, they did an awesome job, and I also love that they're going to take a lot of pressure off Quinshon Judkins coming into year 2 off that injury last year. You can kind of tell it slowed him down. He wasn't able to quite get right after that, and I think this allows them to really open up the passing attack and not make the entire game go through him. I love the 2 receivers in the first 2 rounds. I think it was the best option for a team that's been lacking in pass catchers for a very, very long time.
And another second round pick had Emmanuel McNeil Warren, safety out of Toledo. I didn't watch a lot of Toledo ball myself, but they certainly needed help in that secondary, and I think a safety was a great pick. That is where I mentioned that maybe there would have been a possibility for a trade for Downs, but I don't think anyone was going to let him go. I was excited to see what team he ended up on.
Yeah, I personally like this pick. Last year I was impressed with Toledo. They did end in the top 25 final rankings, if I'm not mistaken, or if not, the week before they were in the top 25. They had a great season. Their offense wasn't strong, but their defense is kind of what carried them through all of those big wins that they had. And this guy was a huge, huge part of it. Being able to check everything down, keep everything in front, kind of that thing you want for a deep safety, but still being able to step up and make some tackles when needed. Just that perfect hybrid safety position for nowadays NFL.
Let's jump into that third round pick, another offensive tackle. Again, just love what they did in this draft, and I think this is going to be a depth guy for sure, which clearly this day and age, that's what you need at the tackle position. When they go down, you can watch it just completely tank an entire season for a team. So I think this is a really smart strategy with what they did. So I nothing but good things to say about their draft. Without going any further, I'm going to give them an A on their draft for this year.
Between the type of talent they picked and the amount of picks that they were able to get, not just for this year and for the next couple of drafts, I can't go any less than an A. I think they have really killed the draft this year. They did awesome. One of many in this division. I think A is a very, very comfortable with the talent that they got. One of the best tackles, one of the best receivers, and then still being able to get some other secondary help.
Yeah, before we jump into the win-loss total and dive into that schedule a little bit, who's going to be the starting quarterback at Cleveland Browns?
I think Deshaun Watson's going to probably get it just due to the contract that he has.
You've got to try it, right?
Shador's got some talent. I know he proved some people wrong last year, a lot of critics wrong. He played a lot better than some of the other rookies last year, but how much of that was really his playmakers around him helping? Harold Fannin had one of the best rookie seasons for a Browns tight end in a long, long time. Quinshon Judkins really stepped up where he needed to.
And with those bright spots that we saw offensively, talent that is there with some of these young guys that they have, if we can channel any of that Houston Texans Deshaun Watson, I think they can have a damn good offense. They really can. If they can get these young guys to settle in, learn their roles, and make these big plays when necessary. I know wide receivers such a hard position for rookies to excel at, but if they can get Concepcion going and Jerry Jeudy can actually do something, but very limited with the help that he had. I mean, they know that's where the ball's going, if any sort of deep threat whatsoever. But yeah, Harold Fannin, I look for him to just continue to improve and take a little bit of workload off of that running back group as well.
I like to see Dylan Sampson get involved a little bit more as well. I know that was kind of their plan going into last year, and obviously injuries between the both of them kind of derailed that situation with their plan of a 1-2 punch. But I think if they can get both running backs involved, especially Quinshon being involved in the pass game where he does excel very, very well in.
All right, what is the win-loss total sitting at for the Cleveland Browns?
So according to FanDuel, I have a 6.5 win-loss total. Pretty straightforward. I think it all comes down to the head coach and the quarterback. I think they are set up moderately decently. I mean, Jared Verse is still electric. He's still a very dominant force on the edge. He's going to be able to do a lot of great things and seal some games for him. But it's the Browns. I can't really say they're going to go over 6.5 comfortably ever.
Let's see. The Browns do have a primetime game. It is a Thursday night game, so we'll throw that in there.
All right, jumping into the next team, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. Kind of have some good overhaul on their defense, which needed an offensive line. Bringing in Dexter Lawrence for the first-round draft pick, kind of a rare pick-for-player swap. Really, they just needed a complete overhaul and anything in the trenches. That was their goal this year.
Yeah, they reinvented their whole offensive scheme. It sounds like they're really gearing towards going under center a lot with Joe Burrow. They're saying that's for his safety. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that strategy, but
I feel like shotgun gives you more time to stop the pressure, but that's just me.
Yeah, to me, I don't think under center in this day and age is necessarily safer for your quarterback. I mean, how many times does your quarterback get his foot stepped on when you get a nose tackle in there that blows your center off the ball or whatever the situation might be?
Oh, so it's almost like the Bengals have not had any good offensive linemen for the past couple of years. So they're just expecting all of a sudden to figure out offensive line this offseason?
I mean, poor run blocking, poor pass blocking, but hey, if they can get a pass off, it's getting completed. That's the upside of the Bengals.
Oh, yeah. Well, they have one of the best quarterbacks and some of the best receivers, but it's just hard when Joe is taking the snap and immediately running for his damn life. And then their defense is allowing 55 points a game. It's kind of been a struggle for the Bengals last year.
Yeah.
All right, before we jump into the draft, is there anything about the Bengals you thought was interesting?
What I think is interesting is all the hype surrounding this team. I mean, everyone is deeming them the AFC North champion already, and based on what we saw last year, I'm not fully bought into that. I do think they're going to be improved, and obviously keeping Joe Burrow on the field really makes that a possibility. But with this defense, I don't see it happening. You've got to be able to play defense in this league, and I'm not seeing the small changes they made completely overhauling their defense. Yes, they are going to get better based on what they did, in my opinion,
but they could not get much worse.
I don't see them winning this division.
They couldn't get any worse on defense. That was historically one of the worst defenses in the history of the NFL. They were awful. Jumping into their draft, obviously no first-round draft pick. I think their second-round draft pick was a hit, though. Cassius Howell, defensive end out of Texas A&M, was the reigning defensive player of the year out of the SEC due to his 11.5 sacks and just being completely dominant off the edge. A lot of people saw this guy going in the late first round. I thought this was a great draft pick for where they were at.
Yeah, 11.5 sacks. That's second most in the SEC and the most by someone out of Texas A&M since Myles Garrett.
That's very impressive. Almost like a kind of two peas in a pod there.
All right, well, we normally don't go beyond the third round when we're doing these draft analysis, but you had one that you wanted to mention here with their last pick.
Their last pick, Landon Robinson, D-tackle out of Navy, reigning AAC Defensive Player of the Year, 6.5 sacks from the inside. Not a lot of players from these AACs getting drafted, especially making an impact. This guy, I think, is going to be a starter. He's going to be a dominant defensive tackle next to Dexter Lawrence over the next couple of years. He's going to learn a lot, and I guarantee you he is going to be a dominant force on this defensive line.
Yeah, I love seeing anyone that's drafted out of programs like that. I mean, obviously, the talent level that he's played against isn't near what we're used to seeing, but still 6.5 sacks from an interior defensive lineman, that's huge. 8.5 tackles per loss. That's really good. I'm looking forward to this, and I hope you're right. I hope it works out for him. But round 7, I don't think we'll see him on the field for at least a couple of years. No. Maybe a rotational guy for a play or two here and there, but
I think he's going to be maybe more of that late game kind of pass situation rush. But yeah, it's going to be a development situation for him. I like the fact, though, that he is no longer having to commit to training to be a Navy sailor on top of playing football. He can now just focus all of his energy on being a football player and honing his craft. Jumping into their win-loss total, 9.5, kind of that it's kind of that middle ground. I think it depends on Joe Burrow and their defense development. If Joe Burrow can get some help with protection and he can survive a full season, 10 wins is comfortable. If he misses any time, that's a stretch.
Yeah, 9 win. I'm not as high on the Bengals as everyone else is. So
I wouldn't know. I don't know what their schedule looks like.
I mean, naturally, I'm going to favor the under, but if you can keep Joe Burrow healthy all season, you can. I think ceiling I would put at 12 to 14 games, but we
Healthy,
know this
yeah.
defense just doesn't have the strength that it needs to compete with going down the stretch when you're going to have, let's see, week 14, they've got the Kansas City Chiefs. You've got to be able to play defense there.
We can't see it.
Carolina Panthers. The Panthers aren't that team that you would typically think that, hey, you have to play defense against them, but newsflash, you're going to have to play defense against the Carolina Panthers. Then you've got the Indianapolis Colts, who, if we got Danny Dimes on the field, you're going to have to play some damn defense. And if you got Lamar Jackson, December 31st, got to play defense. So that's what it's all going to come down to for me is defense, and I'm going to take the under for this win-loss total.
I think they kind of go in spurts. They have a year on, year off, year on, year off. I think this is going to be their year on. I think they're going to get 10, 11 wins. They're going to be a push for the division championship, and I think they're going to do pretty well. But it's going to all lay on Joe Burrow playing all 17 games. If he misses any time, even if we're talking a couple weeks, Joe Flacco, I don't think he's going to be able to play that magic again that he's pulled this last couple of years.
Well, one thing we forgot to mention was the draft grade that we're giving the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll give them a B on this. Again, I think all these teams drafted well. They weren't as good as the Browns, in my opinion, but they had a decent draft. But with what they did do and gaining Dexter Lawrence, I think that gives them some credit. So I'm comfortable sticking with a B.
And see, I think trading for Dexter Lawrence and then drafting for need, especially at key positions, I think an A-. They got some very, very good players, very key positions. And I think that Dexter Lawrence, even though he's a little bit older, is going to be a big veteran presence that is going to help that defensive line progress.
Yeah, good time for them to part with the drama around Trey Hendrickson. I'm not saying that was all on him, but
no.
It's just, I think, good from that team to move on. I think good for him to move on. Like, I think both parties are glad for that situation.
I'm also just glad to quit hearing about it. That was the most annoying couple of months of, where's he going? Where's he going? Where's he going? I'm just done with that. All right, jumping into our next team, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Pretty much everyone's picked to be the division champ every single year, regardless of what they look like the previous year. New head coach, Jesse Minter coming in from Harbaugh system. How are you liking the Ravens?
Yeah, I think a lot to be determined for sure. I'm not all in on the Ravens this year, not based on what we saw last year. I think the defense has definitely come a long way, and they're going to continue to improve. But all the question marks are with Lamar. We know that Lamar's capable of being best quarterback in the league, but what we've seen the last 2 years, I know he's dealt with a lot of injuries. They've had some problems. They've only had one real solid pass catcher on the outside, so a lot to be determined there. But yeah, I think they're definitely competitive to take the division, but I'm not naming them the champion just yet.
I think the addition of Trey Hendrickson definitely brings them closer to the top, fighting for the division, than the bottom. But I definitely don't think that the addition of Trey, a couple draft picks, and a new head coach is going to automatically bump them to the best in the division. I do have some questions on their roster, but we'll jump into that. All right, jumping into the draft, we have, I'm not even going to try to say this name. I'm going to go with Vega, his nickname, out of Penn State, guard. One of the highest rated guards per PFF coming into the draft. Just a complete mauler of a blocker. Physical, very, very strong, very kind of been compared to more of a Quentin Nelson-esque player out of the Colts, but overall, just a strong player.
Yeah, definitely a little odd to see a guard go that high in the draft, so that tells you what kind of talent he's at. But yeah, you know that I love offensive linemen going in the first round, so great pickup by them.
Only 2 pressures last season, after being mostly a run-blocking mauler type. very, very good protecting the blocker, protecting the quarterback. Maybe Lamar can hopefully can play all of 17 games this year. That would be cool to see him back to that MVP type play.
Yeah, strong run blocking ability. Definitely needs to improve and mature as far as the pass blocking goes, but I think that'll be a great addition based on what we've seen out of that team. They've had some serious talent on their offensive line move on, so I think it's definitely needed. Jumping into pick number 2, Zion Young, outside linebacker out of Missouri. This dude is an absolute freak. I'm a big fan of him. 6'5", 262. Yeah, I think he's definitely going to be a rotational player with Trey Hendrickson. It's looking like he'll definitely be able to take some reps on this defense, but yeah, I was really impressed with him with his career in Missouri.
Oh yeah, huge man, 6'6", 260. Led the SEC in tackles for a loss last year with 18. Just incredible dominance. He is going to pair very well with that defensive line and Trey Hendrickson teaching him along the way.
26 tackles at or behind the line of scrimmage in 2025. That's huge. I think this guy can be a pretty versatile player, and I don't know what his pass coverage ability is, but if there's any way that they can work that in there to kind of develop a dual role for him, I think that would be a great fit.
I think it'd be more of a kind of a spy situation, drop him off on a flat and allow a backer to take the A gap kind of a thing. That would be more of my first thought. But just kind of what I would think. I mean, he's more of that pass rushing expertise, and that's kind of where he needs to hone his expertise. But he also could have a Micah Parsons for year 1 year.
All right, looking at round 3, overall pick number 80, Jacoby Lane, wide receiver out of USC. This guy had an absolute phenomenal season last year, and he wasn't even their main pass target. Largest hands at the combine, 10.5 inches.
Jesus.
86 catches with over 1,200 yards.
Can you imagine getting bitch slapped by hands that big? Can you imagine the feeling of him just...
Get Dana on the phone.
Oh my God, dude. That would hurt so bad.
Absolutely needed. Zay Flowers just can't be your sole pass catcher in this offense. Zay's good. He's talented. Got that big contract, but you can't have one pass catcher in modern day NFL. You've got to have the ability to spread the field out a little bit, and I think this guy brings in exactly what they're needing.
Yeah, 30 games, 17 starts over his career at USC, 99 catches, over 1,300 yards, and 18 touchdowns. The part that kind of is crazy to me is out of those 18 touchdowns, he had 12 touchdowns as a sophomore at USC. That's incredible. That's a very, very great talent to add to this offense that has really been struggling for that sure-handed receiver. They tried DeAndre Hopkins. They've tried Rashad Bateman. They've tried a ton of these other tall, strong-handed receivers that just haven't panned out. I think this is going to be finally the guy that can stay and be Lamar's trusty, short-handed, deep threat target.
And just since we've got a Cincinnati disciple here in the 4th round, I think it's worth mentioning anyone, again, coming off of this Indiana team, I'm a fan of just because of the way they're coached and the leadership skills they develop working with Cincinnati. I'm a fan. I think this was another good addition. That wide receiver room, you've got lots of old knowledge in there with DeAndre Hopkins and also Rashad Bateman, who Bateman can still pop up for some big plays now and then, but I think these young guys coming into this room with the experience that's in there, I think they're going to have a really good receiving group.
Yeah, I completely agree. Bateman did sign that contract extension recently, and hey, good for him. I'm glad he finally got something deserved. He's always kind of been that quiet, kept his head down, and been consistent when he's on the field, but he's not that dynamic pass-catching player that we kind of really need to see for this offense to truly open. We have Derrick Henry, one of the best running backs in the backfield, Heisman Trophy winner, MVP, quarterback, and Lamar Jackson. Just needs someone to throw the ball to. And tight ends can't be the only target.
And stay protected. So overall, based on off-season additions as well as the draft, I think you cannot argue for anything below a B. I'm gonna give him we'll give him a B plus.
I like the B plus, more of an A minus situation. Not only do they get needed positions, they also got very, very good talent at those positions. Vega, Zion Young, and Jacoby Lane, like we all broke down, all three dynamic. All three can be very, very excellent in their position group. I'm actually very excited to see Jacoby Lane personally. Think A minus, just because I'm really excited to see what he could do in this system.
All right, let's pull up the schedule. What do you have their win-loss total sitting at?
So again, as a FanDuel, I'm looking at 11.5 as their win-loss total. That is tied with the LA Rams with the highest win-loss total in the league. A little crazy to me. I don't know about you, but that's a little crazy of a win-loss total to me with a new head coach coming off the poor year they had this last year. John Harbaugh Ravens, looking at that schedule, I think 12, 13 wins, comfortable. Not knowing what we're getting at a first-year head coach, it's always a wash. I feel like a lot of things would have to click and go well for them to get 12 wins with that schedule. It does look a little bit on the easier side, but I'm going to take the under on that.
I'll agree. Lock it in.
So with us to both taking the under, is that pretty much just a safe bet to take the over? And they're pretty much going to get 13, 14 wins? Is that pretty much?
If you're comparing it with my track record for the MLB, yes, do the opposite. So fade us, roast us in the comments, do what you got to do.
Ooh, we're not even going to get into baseball bets. That is, ooh, you want to talk about getting burned.
Okay, last but certainly not least, let's jump into the Pittsburgh Steelers. Whole new look for the Steelers. We still got Rodgers at the quarterback spot. We got Mike McCarthy coming in, head coach. Brought a DC in with him. Patrick Graham's going to be calling the plays defensively. So I'm really excited to see how this team looks this year.
Yeah, on paper, this is going to be a fun season for the Steelers. They've really shored up their offensive line, made sure to bring in a very, very good offensive tackle in the draft. Obviously, their defense is established and getting better. And
so, on paper, defensively, this team should certainly be in the top three defenses. They didn't perform like that last year. I think they were trying a lot of fancy stuff that they should have been capable of doing, but weren't. They just got burned so bad in the secondary. Really excited for them to get back to what they do well and blitzing on early downs, and I think we're absolutely going to see that out of this team.
Yeah, last year was a little sad to see the most highest paid defense just getting roasted every week, and kind of every single time you need them to get a stop on third down, it's a guaranteed 12-yard gain, 13-yard gain for the offense right there.
Yeah, and Derek Harmon has proven that he was just a phenomenal choice on that defensive front. Cam's going to be in for another year. Chances are Derek Harmon's going to be getting the double team, so that should leave Cam one-on-one or TJ Watt. Like, you can't double team all their defensive front. So yeah. I just think that our pass rush is absolutely going to be phenomenal.
Bringing in Joseph Day as well, I thought was also another great addition. Shore up the beef in the middle. Basically, from what I saw, is your GM is looking at this and saying that you are not going to route the ball up the middle on us. No way, no how. You have three extremely athletic players up the middle, TJ Watt, and also extending Herbig on the outside. You guys are not getting past this line, is what I'm being told from this GM. Also, I thought him bringing Michael Pittman Jr. was a huge trade. Could not have been a better position for Aaron Rodgers. Having DK Metcalf on one side, Michael Pittman on the other, I just thought that was – everyone obviously sees that that is just the perfect trade.
No, I absolutely love it. And we didn't use DK the correct way last season whatsoever. He can't be your only downfield pass catcher. You've got so much more versatility with bringing Pittman in, and that's really going to open up Darnell Washington to, I think, catch the ball in some open space, and that is what I'm excited for. Stop throwing him the ball with sitting in a linebacker's lap. I want to spread the field out, and I want that guy to catch the ball in open space and just take off. And I'm super excited to watch that happen.
That is 300 pounds of muscle running with the football. Every football fan wants to see that happen.
Yeah. Bringing in Rico Dowdle, I cannot complain about that at all. I think Rico Dowdle's absolutely phenomenal. He was great last season. I think that was a bad decision by the Panthers. I think if you were going to cut ties with one of those running backs, I would have kept Dowdle personally, but I'm not complaining because he and Jalen Warren, and I still think there's a lot of potential with Caleb Johnson. I think this running back room finally got some depth back. Jalen Warren can absolutely be the every down back if needed, but Dowdle's just going to add so much more to the pass catching. He can do everything that Jalen Warren can. I just think he's a perfect complement.
Yeah, I honestly think Rico Dowdle is a better running back than Jalen Warren. I think Rico should be the lead back, but I'm not normally with the committee backs, but I think this would be a perfect backfield by committee kind of situation with Rico and Jalen kind of splitting. They both catch the ball really well. They both block really well. So it's not like you're really sacrificing one thing or the other when they're both on the field. I really want to see Caleb Johnson. I feel like last year, I don't know what it is, Mike Tomlin hated him. He fumbled that kickoff.
Issue.
He fumbled that one kickoff, and it's like, I never saw him ever again. And if we all remember last year, the whole trade breakdown going into fantasy draft last year, it was Caleb Johnson could be a sleeper. And I don't know about y'all, but I fell for that very hard.
Yeah, I thought we would get more out of him, but it's a good point that you bring up, though, with Dowdle possibly taking the lead role, because Jalen Warren plays better as the second running back.
Exactly.
Just taking every series, rotating in for 2 or 3 touches. He does better in that role, so I don't mind seeing him as the starter, seeing what he can do. But yeah, the running back depth on this team, I'm really impressed with.
Yeah.
We got a rookie that I'll touch on as well. Came a little later. I'm really excited about that guy as well. Jumping into the draft, first pick, Max Yanachor, offensive tackle out of Arizona State. This was not who they were planning on going after. Makai Lemon and those dirty, rotten Eagles stole him right out from under him. Genius move by the Eagles, but I hate the Eagles already, as you know, so this one just did not sit well with me. But at the end of the day, we got another offensive tackle, a very good one, and with all the question marks surrounding Broderick Jones, I think it's a phenomenal addition. I think if this guy can pan out, you can possibly move Broderick in to play guard, or if Broderick gets healthy and shows that he can actually hang in the NFL, maybe this is a good depth guy. It's hard to tell with his limited experience, but I think it was a great pickup.
Yeah, I think Broderick just needs a little bit of time in the league. He's that prototypical size. This guy will allow him to, I don't know, I really like Broderick, but I think this is one of the best offensive tackles that the Steelers could have drafted. I like the receiver option with Makai Lemon, but personally I think this offensive tackle, who Hines Ward has said multiple times is a beast and a blue-collar guy, I think this would pair well with have him and Broderick on the other side.
And the crazy thing is, this guy's still learning how to play football. I mean, most of us start at 7, 8 years old, and this guy, he started playing football 2 years ago, and to go into the first round, like, that tells you what kind of natural ability this guy has. And once he actually understands technique and gets some good coaching, which he will in this system, I can't wait. So I think this guy has an unlimited ceiling, but yeah, concerning that he's only played football for 2 years, but I don't think Pittsburgh staff is concerned with that.
Do not be concerned about that whatsoever. In those 2 years, he has played and started 32 games. In those only allowed 3 sacks in 32 games out of 1,150 pass attempts. That is an excellent sack rate. Do not be worried about the little experience. This man, I don't know where he came from, but the Nigerian gods have blessed him with football athleticism, and he's just rolling with it.
So jumping into their second pick, Jeremy Bernard, wideout out, another great pass catcher coming in. I don't want to say that we needed another pass catcher, but this just adds that much more depth. I mean, we still have so many good receivers on that team that have yet to develop into what they could be. Roman Wilson has still potential that I don't think we've seen. Ben Skoranek has shown that he can be that Wes Wilker type wide receiver. But yeah,
I think
really
this
think
was
that's
needed.
So much. And taking a wide receiver out of Alabama when you're planning on grabbing Makai Lemon, I think this was your best follow-up to that after securing another tackle for your team.
Yeah, a lot of guys actually saw him possibly dropping in the last little bit of the first round. So it was nice you were able to snag him so late in the second. Sure hands, strong guy. Just you needed him. You guys showed last year that DK was your only receiver. Everything fell through the three tight ends, and if the three tight ends, Jonnu, Fryermuth, and Washington, didn't each catch a ball, the whole game was just a wash. It's nice to see them completely revamp the receiver room, especially with a lot of good talent, and then possibly even in the next round, bring in your future franchise quarterback, Drew Aller, out of the third round. I think this guy, hey, dude, Drew Aller, Will Howard. I mean, you guys are sitting pretty.
The possibilities for the future are endless. As you know, last season, going into the college football year, I was really big on Drew Aller. I know that last year his coach got fired. It wasn't the best look for him. It really exposed some of the mechanical breakdowns that he's had. But as far as building a quarterback in a lab, 6'5", 235 pounds, he can huck the ball. I think he absolutely can be developed by Mike McCarthy and potentially be a starter.
Okay. I was curious because, I mean, that third round pick on a quarterback, you would expect to see some snaps in the next year or two. But then also bringing in Will Howard, like you're saying, then I know the franchise has a lot of high hopes on Will Howard, and they've looked up, and even Rodgers said last year that he's a very good kid. But I'm just curious on this future QB carousel that you guys are going to go through next season, on which quarterback you're going to be leaning on.
And it makes me nervous. Yeah, it's not, I don't know if either of these guys are worth rolling the dice on, but, you know, they have a team and they're absolutely going to try to make a run. This franchise will not tank. They don't care. Like, if you got a roster to go get 6 wins and you're going to miss out on the first pick, then kiss that first pick goodbye. Like, it doesn't matter. They have a roster and they're going to go after it.
They haven't had a top 10, if I'm not mistaken, or a top 5 draft pick longer than any other team since 1971 when they drafted Terry Bradshaw. That was the last time your team had a top 5 draft pick.
That is crazy. And
72.
What I do like, and we should have much more production because of this statistic, but I still love the statistic. I think it's the last 10 years they've drafted 12 offensive linemen consistently. So I think that's absolutely phenomenal, and I'd love to see that. And I'm hoping that this line can be what we've tried to build for the last 5-6 years.
You have every single prototypical size offensive lineman. No, I think there's a lot of great things you guys did in the draft this year. I do like seeing a Navy running back taken. It's always nice to see that in the last bit. Like Navy last year, I don't know if you watched many of their games, but they kicked ass, dude. It was nice to see Navy, Army, all of those guys kind of compete and fight towards the back end of the top 25. It was cool to see that. You guys drafted positions needed. You did well at getting what you lacked last year in receivers, offensive line help, and then getting a few running backs just in case, injuries happen. And wouldn't it be cool to see Heidenreich on the back of a jersey scoring a touchdown? I think it's a B+. I think you'd give it an A- if you're able to get Makai Lemon, just because he was so talented. But hey,
exactly.
It's too bad you're just not able to draft the player fast enough.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I was going to give him a B+ as well. Maybe be a little bit more prepared, but maybe they did say that, hey, if Kai Lemon for whatever reason gets snatched up, we're going to grab Yanachor, but I don't feel like they were prepared for Makai Lemon being taken off the board. And you let those dirty, rotten Eagles in the same state do that to you, I'll give you a B+. Okay, win-loss total.
Oh, yes. Win-loss total, pulling that up my notes real quick, 7.5. Not looking great, is according to FanDuel. They're not really a lot of high hopes. I think it's first-year head coach, Mike McCarthy, like a lot of the other coaches in this division. Aaron Rodgers,
yeah, but
who
he's
knows?
Not really a first-year head coach.
He's done well everywhere he's coached, that's for sure. And there couldn't have been a better perfect fit for Pittsburgh than Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, agreed. And a quarterback that's already played for him. The system's going to be familiar. I'm definitely in on the Steelers over 7.5 wins without even looking at the schedule. We can still dive into that, but maybe I'm a little biased on this, but I think with the talent on this roster and a good solid coaching core, I definitely see them hitting 8 wins.
I'm taking the under, and then I'm going to give you my why, obviously.
Okay?
Rodgers is not lasting 17 weeks. We don't know what's behind him. We know they're very young. We know they're not very experienced. We know that Mike McCarthy's play systems, where everywhere he's gone, is a very pass heavy offense. When he was in Green Bay, succeeded with a very strong arm quarterback with Brett Favre than Aaron Rodgers. Didn't work out when they started to predict his offense. Took some years off, came back in Dallas, revamped, new offense. Dak Prescott, strong arm. That season, Dak went down. Remember what happened? We had Cooper Rush out there just looking awful. Simply fucking awful. And I have a feeling we're going to see that more than not often this year with this team.
And this is a new Steelers, but the Steelers got more than 7.5 wins with Kenny Pickett. I think that Will Howard or Drew Aller can easily be Kenny Pickett. I think with Rodgers even starting the first, let's say he gets through the first 8 games, I think you're easily getting to at least 4 wins in there, at least. So you're halfway there with what we were expecting Rodgers to do. Maybe Rodgers plays a full season. If he does, absolutely taking the over. But I understand your point with the limited experience at quarterback. That definitely would hinder that for sure.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Mike McCarthy hasn't learned and can't change on the dime. You have, like we were talking about earlier, a completely revamped running back room and a lot of receivers. Maybe you just need to change up your play style. It can't be throwing deep like you have been over your past couple of teams and through your career. But my concern is throwing the ball. Nothing is worse for a team than turnovers, as we all know. And who throws turnovers more than anyone? Rookies and young quarterbacks who don't have the experience to physically read the defense. And throwing them into the fire at some point, which, knock on wood, they're not. We're not going to see that. We don't want to count on injuries here, but I feel like we're not going to see a full 42-year-old Rodgers this year play a full season.
It's not going to matter how many turnovers there are because this defense isn't going to allow any points. So turnovers aren't a concern.